Hello GEVS teachers, Mr. Pez here. All right, so we're talking about using Microsoft Stream channels. So I'm going to show you how to create a channel and a use case or two for why we might use this. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to make sure you're on Microsoft Stream, and then you're going to go to Create Channel. Now this channel can be for anything as specific as, like a certain part of literacy, or it can be as big as your entire class. It's up to you how you want to do it. So let's just do an imaginary use case here, like we're going to do literacy. And then you'd give a description, and you can make it so that only your channel, like only the group that you want to have access to it. So if you only want students in your class group to have access to this, hit group channel. If you want everyone in the company to have access to this, select company channel. I'm going to hit group, and I'm going to select the group we made in the last video. So we did test class 1, and that's the group that I want to have access to it. You can obviously upload an image if you want, totally up to you. Then we're going to select create. Okay, now you have a channel that's only visible to your class, but you need some videos, right? So what we're going to do is we can just grab the files from your file explorer and just drag it in. Alternatively, if that's not the route you want to go, you could also go back to your channel. Got my literacy one here. You can go to select more files, and you can select that same file right there. Now you go through the regular process of uploading it. We've already got our permissions set up, so you don't even need to do that at this point, but you're going to want to give it details. So make sure you do things like give it a title, a description, maybe add a picture. And one thing that I would always do is decide whether or not you want comments on, because your students are going to be able to comment on it, and decide whether or not you want auto-generate captions. Now, I would highly suggest that you have auto-generate captions because it's just good for accessibility purposes. All right, so then we're going to hit publish, and that will become part of my test class group. So when we go back to our My Content, Channels, we go into literacy, video is processed, it will appear in your channel. Now, here is some cool things you can do now that it's in your channel. In your Microsoft team, you can actually put the channel onto your team. So go to the plus and then add stream. Now it's going to ask you either for the URL, or you can just search through Microsoft Stream on here. So I'm going to test or look for my channel. So I called it literacy, and we're going to see where it shows up. Okay, yeah, that's the one I made. And I can call it whatever I want here. Now when I press save, my literacy channel will have all of the videos in there. So let's say I wanted to create sort of like an independent asynchronous task for my students. So if they finish my daily task, I have a whole bunch of tasks here in literacy where they watch a video and then they respond somehow. That would be a useful use case for this channel. So what they could do is they can go to general, they could go to literacy, and then they could watch the videos and respond to any prompts in there. When they click on here, it's going to show them the video in the app.
Hello, GEVS teachers,
However,
students and parents.
if they click on the title, they can watch it in the browser. The great thing about watching it in the browser is you can actually search the transcript. So this is why I had you automatically generate transcript before. Because now, let's say they forgot the part when you were talking about some such subject. So this one's about immersive reader. So I'm going to look up the word verbs. And then when you search it, it will find everywhere in this video where you mentioned the word verbs, right? So maybe you were talking about verbs in a session, and they want to remember that part. Well, they can search for verbs. They can click on it here, and it will take them automatically to that part of the video. It means they don't have to scrub around looking for the answer, which I think is really useful. There's another really useful use case here, useful use case, and that's the interactivity page. So what you can do is you can add a Microsoft form into this video in a specific time code. So let's say you just finished a section here on Immersive Reader and you wanted to add a Microsoft form on it. Well, what you could do is you could add form, and then you're going to paste the URL here. Now, if you don't have your Microsoft form created, you're going to have to create one, find the share link, and then paste it there. If you want to learn how to make a Microsoft form, we have other videos in this channel and in our suite, and I can show you how to make one of those. You can either do a form or a quiz. But really quickly, let's just grab one that I know is good. We'll do this one, check for understanding. I am going to click into it. I'm going to press share. And what I'm going to do here is to make it, I'm going to make it people in my organization can respond. And what this will do is it'll make sure that they're signed in before they respond. And that way their name will be recorded. If you change it to anyone with the link can respond, it won't record their name. So you would have to put the first question, what is your name? Okay, so then we're going to hit copy and we have the link. Now we go back to our interactivity. It's asked for a form. It says paste a form. So I'm going to paste the URL in there. And then I'm going to name my form. I'm going to call this check for understanding 1, or you call it whatever you want. And you'll see that it's at 102 in the timeline. So what's going to happen is when you add this to the timeline, it's going to show up as a little black dot there. And as your student is watching the video, I'm just going to mute it. As the student's watching the video, when this white dot goes over the black dot, it's going to launch the check for understanding. Right? See how it goes check for understanding and then it asks you the question? Okay, I'm just going to fill them out. I'm not going to read the questions. I'm going to hit submit. Okay, then the student's able to review the results. Okay, did I get it right? Yeah, okay, I did. Awesome. And then they can continue the video and they can keep watching. You can add a whole bunch of forms to this and your students can have a whole bunch of checks for understanding. Now, I wouldn't suggest a really long video with a lot of checks for understanding because that might be overwhelming. But I think a 3 to 5 minute video with maybe 1, possibly 2 checks for understanding might be doable, might be reasonable, right? So as they're watching along, you get feedback and make sure that they're actively participating. And of course, if you've watched the Microsoft Forms video, you know that you can have long answer questions. So maybe the video is a prompt about, a writing assignment, or maybe it's a question about social studies, for example. You could put that in there as well. And then they can give you a long form answer as well. The way you can check that work for assessment is you go back to your Microsoft Forms dashboard. You find the quiz that it was a part of. So it was this one, I believe. And you go to responses. Then when you're in responses, you can check the answers and everything. So there I am. There's how long it took me to complete it. Here was my response. So I don't think that was the right one that I copied, but it's in there. Okay. So that is a use case. So I'm imagining something awesome here, right? A student goes into this, they get a really cool prompt to write a paragraph about, what their thoughts are on some such subject. A really cool story you just read. Why did this character do this? Well, as they're watching it, or they watching someone read, maybe you're reading on Microsoft Stream, well, right as you're reading, you can have a check for understanding. Then they respond, and you can actually see how they're interacting with that material. The great thing about this is it takes some work off of you. You could be working with other students while your other students are working on this. So you can do small group instruction, especially if you have an older class. So this is just one use case of Microsoft Stream and how it integrates with Teams. So I hope that helped. Please give it a shot. And if you run into any problems, don't hesitate to send me an email.